Hi everyone, welcome and thanks for joining us again. I'm Barbara and I'm here with Jacob, who will be guiding us through the live demo in just a bit. So for those of you who already know Qonic for a while, you'll know we're all about cutting the noise from BIM. So no bloated tools, no workarounds, just fast, flexible modeling and coordination that fits the way you actually work. And in this May release, we're pushing that mission forward once again. So let's start with our favorite laser tool. We had a great feedback since it launched, but one question kept popping up. Can it measure slopes? And now it can, so no tricky workarounds, just click and get an instant read on your gradient. It's another small, but it's a powerful addition that helps reduce errors and save time. Okay, Jacob, how quick is it really to get that slope info?
It's really quick. You just start the laser tool, click a surface, and you'll see as an extra option now here, this surface or the slope relative to the horizontal surface displayed. So if you just click any vertical or horizontal object, you won't see the slope information because it's 0 or 90. But as soon as you click something that has a slope, like this roof here, or let's say this part of the wall, you'll see the slope here, in this case 60 degrees. Let's take a look at this portion here, 80 degrees. So we also always have this slope information available where it makes sense. We've also added an option to measure thicknesses. So you can just simply enable this option here, click any object, and you'll see the thickness of this object perpendicular to the surface you clicked.
Okay, next up is multi-model editing. You can now edit elements across models in one smooth action. So now you can move or edit different elements at once without switching views or losing content. It's a kind of clean, frictionless workflow we like, and that is how the things work in Qonic.
Yes, so I have about 7 models open here. You can see here the models I currently have open. In a previous version of Qonic, you could only have one active model at the same time. This meant that only that model that was active could be modified, and if you wanted to make a change to another model, you had to manually switch to this other model. Now, in this case, it doesn't really matter which one is active. Only when you create new geometry, then it will be added to the active one. But for all other changes, modifications to your model, you can just make them to all the models you currently have open, if you have the correct access rights for it, of course. So let me select basically the entire building across these 6 models. I will check out their properties, and I will, let's say I want to add a property to all of these objects across all of my models. That's pretty straightforward. I can just add a property. Let's say I want to add a face property to all of these objects. And I'll just already choose a value. Except for maybe these facade objects. Let's change their value instead of new. Let's change it to existing, because this is an existing fabric. We want to retain this when building this building. Now, not only for data, also for geometry, we can make changes across our models. So let's say we have some walls here that were modeled as monolithic objects across the entire height of the building, instead of being split up by level. I have some walls here in the architectural model that have this problem, but there's also some walls in the structural model that have the same issue. So, for example, this concrete wall here, you can see it's part of the, I thought it was the structural model here, indeed, and it's also modeled across the entire height of the building. Now, let me just quickly select them. I already made a little selection set. So all of the walls that are problematic, in this case across my different models, I can just select all of them at once and just slice them in one go. So I'll use the slice tool for this. Let's pick the correct height where I want to slice it. And I will duplicate this slicing plane. Just like this. And just like this, we have sliced all of the walls in the entire, across all 6 models, according to the same levels.
Okay, now let's talk version control. Whether you're checking changes inside Qonic or comparing two IFC files, for example, from external partners, you'll get a crystal clear picture of what's been added, removed, or updated, right down to the properties. So it's all about keeping your projects aligned and avoiding surprises. So how does it work, Jacob?
Yeah, so basically the version history of models and objects in your model has been at the core of Qonic since its inception. So this means we keep track of all changes that have happened to models within Qonic across the time that the model was in Qonic. For example, for this model we can see here it was originally uploaded 11 months ago and several changes have been made since then. Now that's nothing new, we already had this feature for a long time. What we have added now though is a visual way to represent changes between versions. So for example, let me take this final version here, the last one that I made yesterday, and I can now compare this version to the previous one or maybe an earlier version. Let's just take the previous one so I can see what has happened between these two versions. So I can just hit the compare button and it will basically open Qonic in a special comparison mode, giving you an overview of what has changed across these two versions of the model. So at the top right here we can see we have some added geometry, some modified geometry, some removed geometry, and also some data changes. We can visualize them grouped by type of change, so all added geometry for instance, or we can individually see, okay, this footing was added, this column and this beam for instance. We can also see modified geometry, so it looks like these 5 columns were modified, 2 beams and a footing as well. If I want to see individual changes, like what has changed to this column specifically, I can always click it and you'll see the previous version kind of overlaid on top of the current version. So the solid orange column is the current state of this column. This transparent outline here is basically the previous state, meaning previously this column was slightly thicker and slightly shorter than it is right now. Also, we can see, for example, that there was a beam here previously, which has been removed. And also some objects have had some data change, like for example, this wall here has had a fire rating property added to it. We can summarize these changes in a nice report. So using the report panel, we can find all the changes, basically grouped by type of change, and also see it directly, its impact it has on the quantities. So for example, for these concrete rectangular columns here, if I just minimize this, you'll see these 5 columns. All of them have been modified in terms of geometry, and you can see the individual impact it has per column on the net volume. So per column, in this case, 0.38 cubic meters less of volume or smaller volume due to this change. So basically you can get a full overview of the impact of quantities, in this case volume, but also lengths, areas, and so on, counts between different versions of the model. Also on earlier versions of the model, so you could theoretically create a report checking out the changes between the model a year ago and the current version of the model to get a good overview of what has been modified. Not only for changes within Qonic, but this also works for external changes. So if you have, let's say, different IFC files of the same model, but just different versions, you can upload these IFC files as revisions, and then also Qonic can make the diff or check out the difference between these two models and visualize them and quantify them for you.
Okay, this is really great stuff. So you're still in control and up to date.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, finally we have the import SketchUp possibility. Alongside IFC, Revit and 3ds, you can now bring SketchUp models straight into Qonic. So whether it's a quick concept model from a partner or a more detailed design you made yourself, SketchUp files slot seamlessly into your workflow. It's part of making Qonic an open platform by default. Whatever tool your project starts in, you're covered.
Yes, exactly. So it's just as simple as taking a SketchUp file and dragging it into the Qonic dashboard. Let's choose a discipline here. And as soon as it's uploaded and processed, you'll be able to just adapt this model just like you would any other Qonic model. So I'm not going to wait for this process to finish. I'll just open a different version of the same project here, the same model I already uploaded before. And you'll see that we can just interact with the geometry and the data just like we would in any other Qonic project. Now, of course, a tool like SketchUp, it's not really a BIM platform, so it doesn't have any BIM-specific data structures and so on. So this means, for example, when I select this table here, I mean, I know it's a table, it looks like it, but looking at the data, we don't really know it is. It's IFC class as a building element proxy. It has some very basic information about material, but not too much there. We can use Qonic to upscale this in terms of geometry and data. So, for example, let's use the QI tool to automatically suggest me possible options of what this actually is. In this case, it's a furnishing element. So we can just reclassify this easily. Or we can just take the geometry and start modifying this directly in Qonic. So I can push-pull this geometry just like I would any other geometry.
Great, thank you, Jacob. That's it for the highlights of this release for May. If you haven't had the chance to try Qonic, head over to app.qonic.com. You can play around with our sample model, you can upload your own and see how it works in practice. We've also just launched a brand new website at qonic.com where you can easily book a short demo. So we'd love to give you a tour in Qonic. And as always, your feedback really does shape what we build next. So if there's something on your mind, let us know, because we're not building Qonic just for you, but we're building it with you. Thanks for watching and see you next time.